Sexuality is really hard to talk about.
Anywhere you go in the world, it's hard to talk about because it's so scary and intangible.
We decided we wanted to study sexuality for our media project for this exact reason.
We think sexuality should be talked about more openly because it's one of the most important parts of people's identity and interpersonal relationships.
It affects how we relate to one another, how we learn, how we love, how we stay healthy, and how we express ourselves.
Oh my God, that's a tricky question.
The type of person you are sexually attracted to, romantically inclined to be in a partnership with, and like emotionally inclined to have a connection with.
It's just how you feel, like in general, just like what makes you you.
And that could be anything from like, are you gay, bisexual, transgender, blanket statement, queer, maybe like your sex drive or lack thereof, your energy.
I don't think it can be defined. It's the person's opinion, and it differs from person to person.
Sexuality is something that I think about every day, and I think it's very ingrained in every culture. I've been reflecting on how my ample exposure to sex ed in school has shaped who I am as an individual. I learned that there's not just one way to be a sexual being in the world, and there's not just one trajectory that we're all heading down, you know? Not everyone gets married, not everyone has kids, not everyone is attracted to the opposite gender, and not everyone has the same definition of virginity or sex for that matter. I don't know if I would have come out so early in my life if I hadn't had a structured time to think about it and fairly early in my education. I want to find out how other people around the world have experienced learning about their own sexuality.
I grew up with a brother who experienced a lot of trouble addressing his own sexuality. I found that he got a girlfriend just to make his friends and family think that he was straight. I wonder if people in a place like South Asia conform to what society deems as acceptable or not when it comes to who you love. I am also captivated by the issue of HIV/AIDS. Not so much the disease, but more so the stigma that these people are burdened with when surrounding people treat them as outcasts.
Going into the interviews, we didn't really know what to expect. We anticipated that the social norms around sexuality would be stricter in Asia compared to those in the US, because we knew that these countries are more traditional and therefore might have less acceptance towards homosexual relationships. We also anticipated that our interviews in Thailand might be very different from India because the two places have different norms around freedom of speech and self-expression. We were hoping to come across more progressive thinkers in both places, which luckily I think we did. Here are some of our guiding questions for our project. In Thailand, same-sex sexual activity has been legal since 1956. An anti-discrimination law was passed in July 2015. In Cambodia, there's no protection against LGBTQ discrimination. In India, homosexuality and same-sex marriage is illegal, with imprisonment for up to 10 years as the punishment. There's also been no legal protection for discrimination against LGBT people, and has been that way since 1949.
Love is just like for everything, not just like the gender or something.
ผู้หญิงกับผู้ชาย
แต่ถ้าผู้ชายกับผู้ชายกับผู้หญิงกับผู้หญิงแกถ้าจะไม่ค่อยได้นะคะ
If they are attracted towards the same sex, and it's a very natural phenomena, and they should be considered as normal as straight people are.
There is no acceptance.
As I grew up and as I went to the college, I figured out that it's not a taboo.
ให้บอกห้ามไปค่ำห้ามกลับค่ำห้าม
ใช่ห้ามไปเที่ยวกัน2 คนไปก็ไปเป็นมีเพื่อนไปด้วย
For our last 2 interviews, the interviewees opted not to be recorded. We found that May C. also believed in an adolescent girl not going outside with a boy alone. She believes that marriage before having sex used to be the only option, but now Thailand is changing and becoming more accepting. She believes in a woman respecting herself as well as her virginity. She only went to school until 2nd grade, so she never received sexual education in school. She noted that sex ed is common sense. HIV/AIDS has taken the lives of many people, largely in part because citizens are not having conversations about how to protect themselves from it. HIV/AIDS also ties into issues of homosexuality. There's a major stigma that 100% of HIV/AIDS cases come from engaging in homosexual intercourse. However, there needs to be a larger dialogue about how one can contract HIV/AIDS from other places, such as dirty needles, unprotected vaginal and anal sex, and from just being born from someone with the disease. May C. knew an HIV-positive individual in the village. His mother would wear gloves around him to protect herself. The patient would lose a lot of weight, have severe diarrhea, feel dizzy, and have many scabs. Outsiders would be scared of him, but his relatives and close friends knew about his ailment and how they could protect themselves and love him the same. She had a very open dialogue with her son, Moss, about how he could protect himself from HIV or AIDS. This was the only case of a parent telling us that communication with their children was important for topics like sexual health.
From 1993 until 2000, Cambodian had the highest rate of HIV in the whole Southeast Asia. Wow. A lot of finance from the Western world, from US, from Aussie aid, from British government. So the HIV problem has decreased to less than 1% at the moment.
Because of hush-hush kind of a thing, it's a big stigma. People think even by touching them or talking to them, you can get HIV, and so that kind of a thing is there.
Some people might consider talking about sexuality to be a modern phenomenon, but when we visited Angkor Wat, we found that it's far from modern. The walls were covered with rules and fears about the karma that those will face in the afterlife for committing adultery or having an abortion. Angkor Wat is proof that people have been thinking about sexuality since the 12th century. Unfortunately, Boone made it clear that people in Cambodia still live by the strict sexual norms that are carved in the historic walls of Angkor Wat. By continuing to worship the old rules about sexuality, people in Cambodia will have a harder time learning that there is more than one way to be a sexual being in the world.
So these images here represent about those people who committed adultery and adulterers. And those who commit adultery and adulterers, and what happened to them after life, they have the punished by hit the nails into the bodies. And this image, it represents about the women who do abortion, abortionist. And what happened to them, to her after life, is receive the punishment by hit the nail into her tummies. This is the belief in Cambodia, and most of Cambodian people believe in real. That's why we have like 3 or 5% divorce after marriage in this country. Yeah. A sexual greed is very nature to every human being. As long as we are born as a human, we can't escape from the sexual greed. Yeah. It's natural human, but we can remove this by practice meditation and try to discipline our way of life.
P. Nguyen had sex ed in 4th grade. She told us that she wished she had it earlier on in her education, in 1st or 2nd grade. She admitted to feeling very uncomfortable talking and participating in the class.
My sex ed experience was kind of grouped in like sex ed, drugs, and alcohol. And sex ed was very just like minimal. And I think they need to talk about like emotional conversations you should have with a partner before agreeing to have sex. And I think they just need to like be more open about conversation.
I would want to like snap my fingers and change our social norms around talking about sex anyway. Things to me seem to be either like a taboo around talking about sex because it's something embarrassing or I'm not sure. And on the other end, like putting a lot of things about sex and that are sexually stimulating all over our popular culture. There's something wrong with that. I think I would really want to sort of just change our overall social norms just around like making it more okay to think about sex as a part of life.
Mm-hmm. I wish that they wouldn't teach you that it's bad. I was taught that like it was not a good thing to do and that you should just not do it. And if you did do it, then like what you should do around that. But it was just very negative. But like school is where you get like the educational part, and if they teach you that like it's okay and like to be careful, then it makes it less scary, I guess. And I feel like it's easier sometimes to talk about that with someone that's not your parent.
The way they teach us can be improved because the teachers themselves aren't well taught about all these things. The Indian parents should keep an open mind and they should tell their children about what it is, and it's a natural phenomena. That's what I think. And it should be like the first break should be kept by the parents themselves, so that the children don't feel awkward when he's learning about these things in the school.
There were many misconceptions we had when we were growing up, and it was left to our imaginations rather than really having a factual information, and factual information definitely gives you a healthy sex life.
I think it's incredibly important to talk about sexuality because it's something that everyone experiences, and it's important to have a dialogue throughout the community.
Like, I was shameful because it like made you feel like you were not a good person if you did it, and so I just carried a lot of guilt from it. So I think it's important just to like break that and make people feel comfortable with it instead of feeling embarrassed.
The teenagers can really get it wrong. So they need to be informed. They need to be explained.
Like how my husband says, everything starts from there. So why not talk about it? And it permeates your life in a very big way. So it could be, just talking about I'm male and you're female. It could be, oh, male and female have relationship. It could be anything, but it permeates you, the total existence. So why not talk about it?
Come on, let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk